Some Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today I'm going to finally deliver the video everyone's been waiting for. The discussion of tire inserts and which ones to run. So I have made, I don't know, 15 to 20 different iterations of inserts, from extremely hard or solid inserts all the way to extremely soft inserts, and I will tell you that I've learned quite a bit along the way. So with that being said, I'm going to pass that knowledge on to you guys and show you what I've learned this far. Maybe if anyone has any information that I might be missing or lacking, feel free to comment below. All right, let's dive right into this. So without further ado, you can see I have several different inserts here. These are only a very small portion of the inserts that I did make. I did donate the rest of them to recycling. So before I actually dive into the inserts and why that I made them, how that I made them, etc., let's talk about the need for them. So I'm going to show you some of the inserts that come with these tires stock. So these are the stock foam inserts here. You can see that these are, like, I can wad them all up into a very tiny ball. And same with these bigger ones, right? So the bigger ones, and they don't hold any kind of shape. They just compress. So what we're looking for is to simulate air in a tire. So that way, as the tire rolls over a rock or an obstacle, it actually takes the form of that obstacle. So like in this instance, you know, if this foam was rolling over this, it would take the shape of this. The issue becomes that since these tires are so small and they're made out of such a soft compound, there's not enough material on these to keep the tread from just rolling over. So this tread is doing you absolutely no good if it's just laid over like this and it's not actually coming in contact with whatever obstacle it is you're trying to go over. So you'll see that when you're attempting to scale an obstacle or climb rocks or whatever the case is, a lot of times what'll happen is your foam insert will fail you because it will do exactly what these foam inserts do, and instead of catching traction and going like it should, right, it'll just kind of roll over. Like all I'm doing is laying these rubber over, and it's not actually doing anything. Again, so if you're trying to side hill and you just roll off because there is no stability there. I mean, it is foam and it's providing absolutely no value. So I think that inserts is probably one of the largest keys to success in terms of rock crawling, or really any kind of traction for that matter, with RC cars, right? Especially the 18th, 24th, 10th scale RC cars, because we want them to do things that they maybe shouldn't be able to do based off of their scale. You know, there's a lot of things that we do with scale vehicles that if we were to descale it into a 18th or 24th scale, you know, it would actually look a lot easier at this layer than it does at the larger layer, or larger scale, if you will. There is that. Anyway, so I will continue on here. The first insert that I did make was a solid one out of PETG, you can see here. And I did try them on wheels like this. So you can see here how it does have a little bit of a lip there, or a gap between the spacer itself and the rubber. These actually worked a lot better than I thought that they would, honestly. I started out with the solid insert, worked very well. I did play with some different things. So I tried, before I moved, well, actually, while I was waiting on TPU, I tried some different hard PETG insert combinations, and you can see that there's a lip in here. So this was designed to go around the rim and not interfere with the bead lock, because if you make the width of the tire all the way down like this first insert here, I see how it doesn't have the inner lip on it, it actually, you're not actually able to use the ring And when you put the wheel together, this insert is now effectively the beadlock. So versions later than that actually have the lip to allow to utilize the beadlock. So I do have, or did have, footage of all of these in use. However, in a time crunch to go on vacation, I accidentally deleted all of that. So you will get some footage of it, just not all of the footage that I had. Anyway, so these hard inserts did very poorly. The insert that did the best is actually this one. These two, while they actually look appealing, they did not perform very well at all. So those are the first sets that I had tried. And then I received some of this blue TPU, and I printed out or designed this first one. So this TPU is very stringy and it feels very soft. So I figured I would need a pretty good base down to, to counteract how soft it is. Well, if you see really squeezing, and this might as well be PETG. So, yeah, this one didn't actually perform any better than these other ones, and I didn't utilize it for very long at all. So the second iteration of that, you can see I did scale it down some. It is countersunk on both sides, which is what this is. This is the support for it. I didn't bother taking it off because, again, it's like hard as a rock. So back to the drawing board. Then I came up with this design and made it thinner. You can see there's a lot of stringing here. That has to do with my printer. My printer is actually a Bowden style, meaning that the filament is fed through a tube to the print head, whereas a direct drive, the filament goes directly to the print head. So where this comes into play is the filament TPU is actually very stringy, and so when you go to retract the filament to do, to come up and do another print or some other, do another line or change position, it doesn't actually retract because the control on a Bowden style setup is like 12 inches away from the print head. So there is a lot of play in the filament, which prevents it from actually extracting all the way, causing all of this stringing. So I do have an Ender 3, I have two Ender 3 Pros, and I was able to minimize a lot of the stringing by setting the retraction to like 10.5 millimeters. I definitely suggest playing with it. But yeah, so this is the third iteration with this blue TPU. You can see that it is a little bit thinner, but again, it's a little softer, but it's still very, very hard, right? And if this was getting 100 pounds of weight, then yeah, this would be probably a pretty good thickness. But for these little cars, I mean, you might as well have a solid insert in there. So moving on to the next iteration, this actually is getting better. You can see really where my printer is struggling. You can see here that this is actually not even connected, but the stringing, this is a lot better. You can see that it is a lot more malleable, and it does conform a lot better to your thumb or whatever obstacle that it comes up on. It's still not as malleable as I'd like. Again, these vehicles, they weigh grams and ounces. They don't weigh pounds. So, this is probably still a little too stiff. The next iteration, much of the same. I did try and remove some of the, you could see here, I removed some of the wings that go from the inner ring to the outer ring, hoping that would help. It did help some, but I still wasn't impressed. I did end up keeping this design and making it a bit thinner. And then I finally received this black TPU. This is probably the best material I've gotten so far. You can see how easy it is to manipulate that. However, you can't push it in. So it's unlike foam, where you can see where you can squeeze them both, right? You can squeeze them both and kind of do this number with them. Going this way, right? Squeezing it this way, you can squeeze foam very easily, but this, not so much. And so what this will allow is when you're going to side hill, it will prevent the tire from rolling over. And then also, when you're going up obstacles, it'll keep the width where it needs to be. I think the iteration is perfect. I do have this posted on Thingiverse. The link's in the description below. This is what I would consider light. I do have a medium insert. However, I don't have any of those to show you because they are in my vehicles. So again, let's take a look. So I have one of the medium inserts in this very heavy brass Endura wheel. Links for these are in the description below. And then I do have, so this is a heavy insert and this is a foam. You can see the difference, right? So if I apply the same pressure, this one works much better than this one does. I mean, this one just kind of balloons out. That is because it's not vented, so I think this one's vented, yeah. So even, yeah, you can see the difference there. Doesn't look like much, but there is a pretty significant difference. So I did want to showcase that. And then I do have the inserts on this truck here. So this has the soft inserts all the way around because this Cayman Pro is very light. And hands down, functions way better over these foams.
Surprised it didn't come with like high arch. Good throttle
control, yeah. These Patagonias are just the winner. And then finally, everyone's favorite, the new TRX 4M Defender. So I made the heavy version specifically for this vehicle because the back of this truck weighs so much that, you know, when you go to try and climb things or traverse things, any obstacles, these back tires, they just roll over on you. And the problem is when they roll over you, you lose a lot of ground clearance. And so, you know, you get stuck a lot more than if you had bigger tires on there. And if you go bigger tires, you know, even with the foams, it doesn't matter what size they are, the foam's going to smash all the way down to the wheel. And then you can see you'll have maybe a quarter to a half inch of clearance between the axle or less for the pumpkin, but between the axle and your obstacle. So you can see that in the front we have the soft version, and then the rear we have the harder version. And I will tell you, they do perform fantastically. So, with all of that being said, I am still working on more iterations of this design, and I will continue to post them on Thingiverse. Again, the link for the Anderson Bro Outdoors Thingiverse profile is in the description below, along with the link to the STL for these inserts, and then also the heavy inserts.